Nestled in the Chiltern Hills, Great Missenden is a beautiful village for a day out in England. From a historic high street filled with Georgian houses to literary connections with a beloved children's author, there's so much to see here. Back when I first moved to London, I needed space to get out and feel like I was in the countryside, or at least near some greenery and fresh air. And so, my love for Great Missenden was born. To get to Great Missenden today, I took the train from London. It's an easy one, just hop on Chiltern Railways from Marylebone Station, and you're at Great Missenden in under an hour. It's a popular commuting village with plenty of people living here who work in London every day and take the train to and from home. In fact, Great Missenden used to be connected to the London Underground by way of the Metropolitan Railway, the precursor to the London Underground's Metropolitan line. The tube to Great Missenden ran for the last time in 1961, but Chiltern Railway's train line is very easy these days, even if it's now served by National Rail and not the tube. While on the train, I used Reedley to do some research on upcoming videos. Reedley is an app that gives you unlimited access to over 7,000 magazines and newspapers for one monthly fee. But you can enjoy 2 months of Reedley free when you click on the link in my description, and you can cancel at any time. I'm a bit of a topic jumper, as you all know. One day I'm passionate about rewilding in the English countryside. The next I'm reading into spy equipment and the MI6 building. Reedley gives me personalized recommendations to hobby magazines that I might be interested in. Right now I'm all about model trains, which is what I was reading today, but I've also bookmarked some of my favorite history magazines, as well as a coin collection magazine I can't wait to dive into. I actually used Reedley throughout the day when I needed a break from walking around, and I wasn't always in a signal area, which isn't a problem with Reedley as you can download magazines for offline reading. I'm using Reedley on my phone, but you can also use Reedley on a tablet if you prefer a larger screen. You get a full 2 months of Reedley for free if you use the link in my description, and like I said, you can cancel at any time. So if you're interested in checking out some new magazines or reading deeper into topics you're interested in, you can try it with the link in my description, and I'd highly recommend it. Now, once you get into Great Missenden and step off the train, you can smell how much fresher the air is here than in London. And just a short walk away from the station towards the high street, and you're suddenly surrounded by some of the cutest buildings, colorful doors, and flowers and vines everywhere. Not to mention the stunning view of the Chilterns from so many places in the village. Great Missenden has prehistoric roots, and Neolithic and Bronze Age tools have been found in nearby fields, as well as hand axes and pottery. The origin of the name itself is up to a bit of interpretation, but one of the most interesting guesses has to do with a lost Old English word relating to English moss, believe it or not, and the ending den, meaning valley, so it may be meaning a valley where moss grows. When you walk down the high street, the history of Great Missenden is on full display, even if some of the buildings are no longer used for their original intentions. Such is the case as life moves on. Back in the day, Great Missenden was along a major route between the Midlands and London, and travelers and their horses would stop off at the Red Lion and the George Inn for a rest. The first stop on today's agenda was Matilda's, the best cafe in town, and we'll explain the name shortly, but after that it was off to one of the medieval buildings in town, St. Peter and St. Paul Church. To get there, you walk up a cute little lane called Church Lane, for reasons unclear, no idea why, and then boom, it hits you. A gorgeous building dating back to the 14th century, though technically it was enhanced in the 15th century and extended after the Reformation to add a giant wall to support a new belfry. This is very common in England where things are just chopped and changed over the years, but originally it goes back to the 14th century. The stained glass is beautiful, and it really hits me when I go to village churches just how lucky England is to have such history. The dates inscribed in various plaques show just how much has happened here over the years, and you could easily spend quite a bit of time here just taking in all of the different architectural features and taking a quiet moment out of a hectic day. There are also some fun signs of village life here, like a jam jar box for recycling collection, an honor system for payment for the leaflets about the church, and a pair of mangled glasses that I'm assuming got sat on at the last service. The grounds around the church are equally stunning, with a wonderful wooded area to explore, along with an area of Commonwealth war graves to pay your respects. There are also great views of the surrounding countryside and lots of paths through nature. Buried in the cemetery directly opposite the church is a famous British author, Roald Dahl, known for children's books like Matilda and the BFG. Let's backtrack through the village to talk about him and his life before we see his final resting place. Roald Dahl lived in Great Missenden since 1954, and today, so many of the places that inspired him are still kept intact in the village, including some fun, can you spot them, secret Roald Dahl tributes, and places you wouldn't expect, like the words underneath this bench. The Roald Dahl Museum itself is a Grade 2 listed building, and the Wonka gates inside were actually donated by Warner Brothers, specifically built for the museum. Then you've got Crown House, a timber-framed building at 70 High Street that inspired Sophie's orphanage in the BFG. Today, it's a private home. And one of my favorites, the petrol pumps. These are at 64 High Street and inspired a description of the garage in Danny the Champion of the World. It's such a cute little gem in the village, but if you peer in closely, you'll see that today, inside is an office. Great Missenden Library, built in 1970, is the very library that Matilda visits regularly in the story while her mom leaves her alone and goes off to play bingo, and now you understand why the cafe across the street is named Matilda's. In 1990, Roald Dahl passed away after living in the village for 36 years. He's buried in the cemetery we saw earlier, and if we head back there, you'll see his gravesite, along with some BFG footsteps that lead to it from a circular bench that has a message inscribed on it. It's a peaceful place for reflection, and literary lovers will enjoy visiting the village that inspired so much of his work. But it's not all about Roald Dahl. The village has plenty more to offer. As I'm leaving the church, I pass by a school group who are just heading in, and I work my way towards Missenden Abbey. It has a royal history, favored by Henry VIII, but today it's a wedding and conference venue and event space. The actual Abbey church was demolished in 1538, and a house was built on the site. Unfortunately, it was gutted by fire in 1985, and the building had to be reconstructed. And again, while it's known as Missenden Abbey, today it's very much a house, not an abbey, but it's still a beautiful place for a wedding all the same. As I wandered down the high street, I passed so many boutique shops featuring everything from clothing to knick-knack to books and art galleries. There are salons, cafes, a pizzeria, a great Thai place, a pub called the Cross Keys, and so much more. There are plenty of local notice boards, as well as fish and chips, estate agents, because of course, and cute lanes and mews that jut off from the main street. Follow me now as we walk down some of my favorite streets, the ones featuring some adorable homes, often with low-down doors that many have to duck to enter, and enjoy the views of the plants in the windows, the vines growing along the building fronts, and the general peace and quiet that makes you feel like London is much further than 41 minutes away. There's a fire station and police station, though I did meet the police recently and they confirmed that they do more proactive work here rather than solving crimes, which is not surprising. But on screen, Great Missenden has served as a backdrop for filming locations for shows like Midsummer Murders and a small series of horror films in the 1980s. So there's just something about an idyllic village that makes people want to gory it up a bit, I guess. It's funny, too, to be so relatively close to London. Amersham, the last stop on the Metropolitan line today, is only one stop before Great Missenden on Chiltern Railways, just about 5 minutes by train, so you're not out in the middle of nowhere. But you see signs like this one warning to stay away from the pregnant sheep in the fields, and you really have no concept that the busy streets of London exist. It's what makes it such a great place to visit and to live. It's really the best of both worlds. After a long day of exploring, I got back on the train at Great Missenden Station, an iconic and, in my opinion, aesthetically pleasing village station with no ticket turnstiles, though of course you still need to buy a ticket, and nicely designed overhangs and waiting areas. Then it's a zip back through the countryside to finish off this day's adventure. Don't forget to use the link in my description if you wanted to check out your 2 months free of Reedley. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.